Call this meeting of the Urbana City Council Committee of the Whole to order. It's Tuesday, November 13th. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes? Here. Mr. Bowersox? Ms. Chenoweth? Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smythe?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson?
Present.
Mayor Pressing.
Would like to indicate that the city invested in a new piece of equipment for its teleconference system, replacing the telephone with a modern board in our system in the back, just like radio stations have for their call-in shows. In addition, we have Brandon present tonight via computer video cam as well. So this is basically very inexpensive, less than $1,000 investment by all parties involved, and we have basically more or less state-of-the-art ability to teleconference with a lot of fancy stuff. So, welcome, Brandon. Are there any additions to the agenda? Staff report at this time? Seeing none. Approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
I second.
It's been moved by Lynn Barnes, seconded by
Heather.
Stevenson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Is there any public input at this time? Nothing's made it to me. Anybody? Okay. In that case, we will move on to ordinance number 2007-10-120, an ordinance approving a text amendment to the zoning ordinance of the City of Urbana, Illinois. Robert?
Well, I don't have anything to add to that, and I was wondering if you had any questions for me, if I can help you with anything.
No, at this
I
time.
was just going to
Okay.
move that we send this to the next committee of the whole, that we table it till the next committee of the whole.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
I would second that.
There's a motion by Heather, a second by Dennis to send this to committee, and I believe that's the Monday after Thanksgiving, the 26th. Is that correct? That's our
That's
next
right.
meeting, yes. So it'll be on the agenda, the November 26th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so this goes to, this stays in committee. Next up is ordinance number 2007-11-125, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with Trammell Crow. This is at 1008 to 1012 West University Avenue. Tom's here, as well as Mr. Scholem from Meyer Cable.
Thank you. First, I would like to address one housekeeping item. Because we just received the actual official name of the party to whom is going to be part of this agreement, technically the agreement is with TC Met Urbana LLC and not with Trammell Crow Company. And I was asked to bring that up because your agenda actually reached Trammell Crow Company. And so for the record, we do need to, in the motion, recognize that it's actually TC Met Urbana LLC. And then also another housekeeping item is that the agreement was actually just finalized today. So you've gotten a couple different versions of this agreement. And so what I'm going to do to make things simple is I will discuss all of the changes that have been made since your hard copy packet came out to you. And then what you have before you is a copy that says revised 11/13/07 in front of you. That's the one that we're actually going to be discussing tonight. And I'll explain all those changes. So,
Yeah, they were on our desk when we sat down.
It's over here, and I'm over here.
but to begin, you've seen this project before. On July 9th, 2007, you approved both a special use permit to allow for residential use in a B3 zoning district, as well as a variance for side yard setbacks. You'll also see an additional variance for a rear yard setback coming to you in the next few weeks. The project is a 5-story mixed-use project, residential and retail, with ground level parking and subsurface parking. The project is partially within TIF 3 and is consistent with the TIF 3 plan, our comp plan, and with the variances and special use will be consistent with our zoning as well. The main component of the redevelopment agreement you have before you is a property tax rebate provision. the city is agreeing to rebate 63.5% of the incremental property taxes annually for a 4-year period through the expiration of the TIF in 2013. The project results in a positive net revenue for both the TIF district through 2013, and then we'll have a positive net revenue impact to all of the taxing districts after 2013. So we're recommending approval for the project. Some of the changes you have in the version before you this evening are that the final TIF rebate is indeed 63.5% annually, as opposed to 50%, which was the old agreement and had to be revised because of the shorter time frame from 4 years to 5 years, from 5 years to 4 years. And then also, the developers requested a slight modification in the assignment language. And then the changes that were made just today are related to provisions related to using innovative technologies for energy efficiency. We've cleaned that up a little bit, saying that they will they will meet or exceed the Illinois Energy Conservation Code. So we tighten that language up a little bit. And then also the other provision that was modified in today's version, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. Related to the, the eligible expenses for TIF reimbursement. Initially, they were requesting that we just reimburse expenses related to property acquisition, and they've asked that we expand that to cover all of the allowable reimbursements that the state allows. So again, we're widening that reimbursement component to allow everything the state will allow that's legal. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Dennis.
Have we received any information from the proposed developer concerning the expectations for filling the retail space in the ground level? And I ask this question because this is a mixed office and residential unit, and across the street from this building there is a fairly large structure owned by the university that has retail on the first floor, which is completely empty at this point, and there's not a known set of foot traffic in the area. So even though I think it's a commendable mix of residential and retail, it does look like there'd be 3 or 4 shops at the bottom. Do we have any information about interest in this property at this time?
Well, I think that while the projects are in close proximity, I think the design of the parking deck project is such that it's hurt them filling those retail spaces. I know city staff encouraged them to have the retail front on University, higher visibility, more traffic, and that did not happen, and I think that's contributed to those spaces not filling. And I will tell you, in talking with representatives of Trammell Crow, the portion of the property that really drives the success financially of the project is the residential component. The retail component is a much smaller component, but really the student housing component of the project is really what's going to determine the success. And they've talked about, they have some retailers in mind, although I doubt they have anything or commitments or anything at this point that they've shared with us. But I think that with the visibility and the traffic in the area, the quality of the project, and the fact that they'll have, in effect, a captive audience with the residents of the project who will be able to shop without ever leaving the building, I think that you'll see that the Trammell Crow's national connections, I'm sure, will help in getting those tenant spaces filled.
Heather.
I would move that we send ordinance number 2007-11-125 to City Council with the recommendation for approval.
Second.
So motion by Heather, a second by Lynn to send this to council, and we'll note that this is an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with TC Met Urbana LLC for the redevelopment of 1008 through 1012 West University Avenue. I have one question for Tom. Could you, I know about LEED standards and stuff like that. What's the state conservation stuff talk about? How is that different?
Well, I don't know the details of the State Energy Conservation Code, but I do know that we were concerned, and the developer was concerned about a lot of things could be considered innovative and energy efficient, but we had no, we weren't using any specific guidelines as to what to use, and that's why we used the Illinois Conservation Code as a point of reference.
Okay, got it. Okay, and you wanted to add something?
I do. I'm not sure if we need to include this, but I know our intention was to request that this be forwarded to the special city council meeting on November 26th.
Oh, right, yeah. Is that the intent? That's the intent of the motioners.
Great, thanks.
Yes. Danielle has joined us.
Thank you. I actually haven't read the version that's sitting on our desk, but I have read the version that was in our packet, and I saw that the plan was for $9,000 of retail space as a plan, and yet I didn't see anything in the development agreement that would require any retail at all, and it seemed like it could turn into office space. The reason I bring it up is because a TIF increment at such a high amount, the 2/3 of the property taxes, typically we support something like that when it's clear that it's a retail, there's some retail development in it. And that certainly is the case in the memo, but actually in the proposal, in the agreement, I don't see anything that keeps them from just changing this completely and going to office. And I don't think, I wouldn't support this level of commitment from the city for an office-based project.
Sure. Well, I think on their conceptual plan, they do, they mark off that space as retail. And we do have in the development agreement, it says that they need to generally conform to the attached concept plan. If that space were to not be retail, I'm sure that we would need to have some conversations with Trammell Crow to understand why exactly that's happening.
I think it probably would, I would tend to agree with Danielle that we probably should, in that same sentence there where we refer to the visual, to the plan, probably ought to be a half a sentence that says something to the effect of retail being the expectation. I think just to dot all the i's and cross all the t's, a half sentence in there probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't know how the motioners feel about that.
I'd be comfortable with that as a second,
Heather?
because they're going to have to come back and have discussion with us anyway.
It's also,
I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it, I guess, if they couldn't get the 9,000 square feet and they were only able to get, say, 5,000 square feet and the rest was used as office, I wouldn't have a problem with that, because I don't want to see them lose money because they can't get a retailer in there, and if they could get someone to rent the space from them, I think that would be something that...
Danielle?
I agree with that. I think that in that case, what I think the city would like to see is good faith effort and proof that, you know, that there hadn't been interest in the retail space for retail uses, that, you know, we'd like to see where they advertised, how long they attempted to do that, those kinds of things, which we've done similarly for other programs. I mean, but I just wanted, and it sounds like it would have to come back to at least the mayor and the developer who could make an alteration. That is at least my reading of the agreement. So it would need to come back and be a discussion. I think that's the main thing, and that there need to be some proof. And I also just want to go on record that really is our expectation, that we would have that level of retail. I think this is key location for it. I think it will be, retail will be supported. And I definitely, the issue is that sometimes office gets more per square foot than retail, which isn't typical, but in our town, there's a lot of office uses. So I don't want to see the developer say, well, I can get more dollars per square foot for an office use, and I'm going to therefore go for the better office use rather than the retail. Because that's why we're giving, you know, almost $2 million in subsidies to support this. No, I'm sorry, 1.25 million.
Heather?
Well, what I was saying is if they couldn't get, in a good faith effort, they couldn't get a retailer, and it meant them losing money, I would hate to see us not let them use it as office space if it meant them, because really, if you think about it logically, some money is better than no money. And so if it's not a retailer and it's a renter, there's still money for the developer, and in the long run, then after 2013, there will be money into the city. So,
Dennis?
Well, rather than try to make an argument for the failure of the project, I would just like to say that, and I second, my first question was about the ability to have successful retail on that site compared, was a concern of mine. I've already voiced that. I would like it to be clear that if, by signing this agreement, the city does indeed expect retail development on that site, and there should be a really good reason why it's not succeeding, and it should be explained very carefully to us why, there had been a failure. I'm concerned that the retail space may be empty for a long period of time. It would mean that there would be less potential income coming into the city because of the, lost retail taxes that might happen there. If it became an office, there wouldn't be any of those retail taxes probably coming to the city. I think it's an important part of the offer for the benefits that we're offering them, and so I think that we have an expectation that it should be met.
Heather?
is this the Trammell Crow representative?
Yeah,
I know you
Mr.
don't know
Shullum.
a lot
Yeah.
about, I know you're not as informed as you would like to be, I'm sure. Do you think that what we're proposing is acceptable to Trammell Crow? Or is that an answer you can't, a question you can't answer?
It's unfortunately a question I cannot answer. The Trammell Crow representatives will actually be back in town tomorrow for the variance hearing, so they apologize for not being able to make it tonight. They planned to be here, but there was an emergency, but we can raise the issue with them and get a feel for it. I'm sure the retail is their first choice, and they would use every effort they could to fill the space, because it becomes an amenity for the building as well, because you want to be able to have, you know, a coffee shop or some other retail establishment that you can help sell to the tenants. So the office wouldn't provide any positive to them, so I think they would strongly prefer the retail as well.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have any problem there.
I don't think so either.
It's a developing.
Schwinn Bicycle.
Yeah, there's
restaurants.
there's restaurants. There's plenty of people. There's parking, and they're facing University, unlike the parking deck, which is backwards. And even if you park in the parking deck, you have to walk all the way around to get to it. So it's not like they made it easy to get in and out of the parking deck to get to the shops. So it's just a really bad design versus something that faces the street, and there's just an increased amount of walking traffic there. What would really make this successful is for the university to develop the empty parking lots across the street into something there, and that's a separate thing we can talk about. And Tom's shaking his head, knowing exactly what I want to put there. Anyway, but I don't think they'll have any problem, and I think since it's already in the language anyway, a half a sentence clarifying it would probably be to everybody's benefit. So I'm sure they can figure it out between now and the 26th.
Sounds great.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, Brandon, I forgot to ask, do you have any questions? No. Okay. Just speak up, because I can't see you raising your hand here. I put the computer too far up in front of me, so I can't see through the screen. Thank you, Mr. Shullum, for stepping in. This goes to council the 26th. Next up is resolution number 2007-11-026R, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement regarding water rate increase intervention, and we have a companion ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance number 2007-11-131. And who's speaking about this one?
I guess I can speak somewhat to it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You all have heard about the proposed 60% rate increase that Illinois American Water is seeking before the Illinois Commerce Commission. I think there's a consensus, at least with some of the communities in this area, that we don't want to go quietly and agree to that. Any water increase, rate increase, but much less 60%.
Yeah.
So, Champaign, Savoy, and Urbana so far have been all signatories to this intergovernmental agreement. There's hope and some idea that other communities, including the county, may join. They may not, but they may. And so it simply is what it is. We're seeking to have an intergovernmental agreement so that we will all join together as interveners in that Illinois Commerce Commission case.
Okay. Does the university also buy water from American Water, or do they pump their own?
It's a good question. I think they do, yes.
They buy it, or
Yes,
they pump?
they buy it.
Are-
Yes, they buy it as well.
Now, they've typically been involved with us on some of these things. Are they going to be invited to join as well?
And I'm sure they have been. I just
Okay.
don't know if they, obviously that's the
Acted
state.
on it? Yeah, okay.
There've been there've been several communities that have been invited, and I can't honestly say which all ones have said yes or no.
I think Bill Gray has an
Bill, was
answer
I
here.
incorrect?
The U of I has been invited, but they have respectfully declined to intervene in this particular case. And there's legal reasons for it. I believe they may intervene all on their own, is
Okay.
my understanding. But they won't be joining us in this particular effort.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, there's,
should I
Dennis,
make a
go ahead.
motion?
Yeah, we have two. We have a resolution and an ordinance, so we need two motions.
All right. Maybe in omnibus fashion, I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 2007-11-026R, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement regarding water rate increase intervention, and ordinance number 2007-11-131, and ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance intervention water company rate increase. I would make the motion that we send this to council with approval.
It's been moved by Dennis, seconded by Robert, to send this to council in omnibus fashion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this goes to council. Last item on the agenda is resolution number 2007-11-028R, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for regional emergency coordination. Is this Bill or Ron? Okay, Ron?
That's me. Again, I'll do the best that I can with this one. Again, this is something that's been bouncing around about a year and a half. It is something that was initiated by the city manager and the CAO. It is essentially an intergovernmental agreement so that those at that level of city management can also coordinate given a natural disaster or security disaster. Each of the major stakeholders, that would be, for example, police, fire, public works, they have some operating intergovernmental agreements in the event of disaster. I understand that they've been put into play before. For example, I think there was a tornado in '96 where they were able to coordinate. And this is something that just allows University of Illinois, Champaign, Urbana, and the county at the management level to work with each other in terms of planning and policy.
Discussion, questions? Robert?
How does that affect our mediation plan that we presently have in terms of language? Our mediation plan that's required by, we have to develop a plan for all kinds of issues with regard to tornadoes, major disasters. Does it change the language in any way when you go into an intergovernmental agreement on something like this?
We have another plan, is what you're saying? I'm sorry, I don't understand your question, Councilman.
Well, each city requires a mediation plan, which they put together to address issues such as disaster planning. That's covering tornadoes,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, now I understand.
They had that plan put together. How does this,
This would, if such a plan already exists with the cities, this would not affect it. My understanding is that this is just that allows, like, for example, Steve Carter from the city of Champaign and whoever his counterpart would be for the university and whoever's counterparts would be for Urbana and the county to just coordinate their efforts in terms of a natural disaster or a security disaster, that they have an agreement to work on policies and procedures as to how they would work together.
okay. So they will address the issue of protocols
Sure,
when they get together.
sure.
One question for you, Ron. Savoy isn't on here. We have a category called Others as identified by its governing body, but I know we've started doing some things, including Savoy, in our thinking on these. Is there any reason that they're not on here?
Alderman, I really couldn't tell you why they're not on here, because, as I said, this is something that precedes me. It's like been going on for a year and a half, and it was primarily the brainchild of our former CAO and the current city manager, Mr. Carter.
Okay. You might, if you could, sometime between now and the 26th, touch base with Mr. Carter
Sure.
and see if Savoy had any interest. Lynn?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lynn?
I'd like to recommend that we move resolution number 2007-11028R on to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Lynn, seconded by Robert, to send this to council with a recommendation for approval, also on the 26th. Is that correct? Yes.
Special counsel.
Okay. And everything we've done tonight is for the 26th, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is that clear to the clerk? Everything goes to the 26th, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We also received the annual winter weather response and snow manual for your reading.
Pleasure.
I don't know if anybody has any questions on it. I haven't had a chance to get through it yet completely, but Bill's here and nodding his head.
Okay, I got a question.
Okay, Dennis?
I read it really well last year. Is there any significant change?
Yeah, you got to be going.
Okay, you got a yes on that, okay. Maybe you could elucidate that.
There's one significant change, and that is the rotation of the residential areas as to who's first and who's last.
Okay.
Every year that changes. To be fair, we rotate through the 15 residential areas, and you need to look in there to see.
The last shall be first.
And the first shall be last.
Right. We try to be fair, so that's a change. But other than that, no, it is on the website, so if anybody would like to know what it says, the details are on our website. And the offer is open. We've had takers in the past. If you'd like to jump in a plow with one of our operators and see
Everybody
the
should do an
difficulty
8-hour
in doing
shift
it,
in a
it's,
snow plow.
You're welcome to
It
do
would be
that.
kind
In
of
a
fun.
blizzard.
You're welcome to do that. So it's quite an experience.
No, I didn't get to drive, but it was a lot of fun. I did get to
glad.
shovel.
Well,
Dennis, then Ron.
I just know that the plans are incredibly detailed, and including like where and what direction the plow should push the snow in a parking lot or on certain streets. The rotation of like when you start hitting alleys after the streets have been cleared, how you do the main courses first, the main streets first. I mean, it's extremely well thought out. And I'm sure you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It works really well, very efficient. So I'm totally excited about it.
I do have two questions after Ron, so go
No,
ahead.
you can move on. I just have something before we adjourn.
Oh, okay, okay. Bill, since you're here, the two thoughts I've had on this is, do we have better coordination with the school district so we don't end up plowing back onto stuff that they clear? I know that was a problem, like Leal School, where we covered their sidewalks up after they cleared them.
I believe there's been that contact. What the specifics in the resolution of that issue, I don't know personally, but I think Mr. Kelly and Mr. Dossett have spoken about those matters.
Yeah, because I know one of the issues is, blocking in people who've cleared their driveways, and then snow comes through, and, the last big snow would put a foot of frozen slush at the bottom of your driveway that you had to take a pickaxe to get off. So I know it got pretty frozen up at Leal School as well. So hopefully we've got ways of dealing with snow a little better. We don't have a river to push it all into, but which I understand. But Dennis.
Each year, there's always a discussion about the downtown and what responsibilities businesses have to keep clear of the properties in front of their stores. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a quick overview on that, where we stand with that at this time? That, I guess, it hasn't really changed. We talked about mandatory shoveling at one point, but we never adopted it that I can remember. So
that's correct. There's been no official change in policy into that regard. There was a lot of discussion. There was at least in 2 neighborhood safety meeting agendas that spoke with folks and ideas. I know the mayor is very interested in what can be done, but officially in that plan, you'll see no specific change that we will add to our responsibilities to remove snow in front of businesses, other than those locations that are in front of city-owned properties that we're responsible for. So that's quick answer is there's no change.
No change.
Or no additional effort on city part.
Brandon, do you have anything?
No.
Ron, you're up.
Just wanted to say that I'm learning Robert's Rules of Order, and we tabled an issue, and Alderwoman Stevens, you tabled the issue regarding the sign ordinance, and it actually needs to be a motion to postpone to a date certain, because it has to come off the table.
Motion to postpone, or simply a motion to send it to the next council, or to the next committee meeting? Is that the same thing?
It's pretty
Either
much
way.
the same thing. It's either
Okay.
a motion to postpone to a date certain, or a motion to send it to the next council meeting, which will be a date certain.
Okay, well, her motion was
My
to
motion
send,
was to send it to the next council meeting, which would
Oh,
be
committee
the
meeting.
22nd.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I did committee,
you did say table, but then you said send it to the next
Okay.
committee meeting.
So which one of those motions are we going to go
okay.
with?
Can I go with, I move to send ordinance number 2007-10-120 to the next committee of the whole.
How do you want us to proceed on this, to clarify it?
That's fine. If you want to just say, yes, clerk, as long as the clerk records it as that date. Debbie's nodding, so I know if Debbie nods and says
Okay,
it's
so-
okay, then it's okay.
Is all the council in agreement with that as the way, that was the way I interpreted it, so,
Okay.
was to send it
I
to
just
next.
wanted to make sure,
yeah.
'cause I heard
We should-
tabling.
Yeah, we should be careful not to use the word table then in our motions, and especially when we use it at the same time as a date certain, so, okay. So, okay. Okay. Anything else? Heather?
Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be here next week, the Monday before the Thursday of Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Enjoy your family time.
And we'll have a special council meeting on the 26th, followed by a committee meeting.
Who's cooking?
You are. You are. Phyllis. Yes, Phyllis. Phyllis is cooking. She doesn't know. Yeah. Okay, seeing no further business, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks.
Good night, Brandon. Enjoy New Orleans.